Hello everyone, welcome to our Let's Play series of Disco Elysium. This is Colonel RPG as usual, and I'm very happy that you chose to join me today, as honestly I'm gonna look around a little bit. That's what's making that noise. That is not the noise a fireplace makes. Oh no, it's not. It's made by other things. Okay, maybe. Potentially made by other things. Anyway, I'm gonna look around before I talk to who I believe is the killer. Potentially. It's still a little bit hazy. This game just is never full-on sincere with you. So...
Minions of Capital. What do you want?
that was the least convincing spit ever. Spitting on a microphone is a really tricky thing to do. Spitting on in real life is a really tricky thing to do. When did you first see the deceased? 3 weeks ago, when the rich hag came in on her galley. Her honor guard came in tow. Joyce. He means Joyce. By that you mean Joyce. Let's just ask rich hag instead. Wrinkled up whore. He nods. Yeah, he's consistently misogynistic in his language as well. Something that has been sort of a pattern for his dialogue before as well. Oh no, he also said pederasts. I know what pederasts is. No, do I know? Ooh, this is an interesting thing. Worse than pederasts. I think I know what pederast is. I believe pederast is I don't know what the origin of the word is, so I'm going to assume it's a derogatory word by its very nature for homosexual people. But I think specifically for homosexual men. Specifically. But what is also interesting is me asking, aren't you a communist? Because communism, specifically in regards to the liberation of women, it does have an historically relevant role to play, and the Soviet Union was I don't actually know about the specifically about the about sex workers, but specifically women. The Soviet Union was let's just say ahead of its time back in 1917 in regards to the liberation of women, allowing them to vote and allowing them civil rights, basically. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. In regards to sex workers, a lot of the stigmatization in Europe around sex work has to do with Christianism, but not just, obviously, but at least historically, it has to do with Christianism. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that the USSR, when it was founded, it tried to basically abolish all institutional religion from the country. But I'm not 100% sure on that. But it would make sense that they would try to sort of like pursue the, or rather try to make up for the prejudices that come from religion, like, well, being against homosexuality and sex work. Things that are not necessarily at all the same in the modern day areas of that were the USSR. But anyway, it is what it is. Aren't you a communist? I'm gonna ask. Lax sexual. What is lax? Oh, right. It's not like a French thing or anything. Lax sexual morals are a bourgeois ploy. He gargles a spitball. As to pederasty. Oh, I thought you were talking about pederasty. But no, he's just actually talking about receiving money for sexual acts. That is morals. As for pederasty, the party legalized it in '04. My party, not your liberal masters. He spits it out on the dying coals. I'm not sure what he means by that. So you don't sermonize me, you racist shithole, he adds. It's still bourgeois when the bourgeois does it, fiddling with their sexual organs. KHM, says Kim. Yes, I mean, that is my reaction as well. How dare people fiddle with their sexual organs? KHM, I'm gonna say. Moving on. I don't. Anyway, the victim arrives sometime after her. You were saying. He nods towards the city. They moved into a deserted apartment above the roundabout. Radio equipment out for all to see. Reactionary radio playing. Sloppy and drunk. I've seen their kind during the landing. Those Occidental and Mesk phalanges? I don't think that's phalanges. You can't say phalanges with a U over there. Phalanges weren't conscripts. Boys like us. They were whites. As in W-I-G-H-T-S, not W-H-I-T-E-S. They were whites. All they know is to destroy and hurt. What do you mean whites? Barely alive. They like to kill while they're on their drugs. After the landing in the burning years, I would take shots at them. End them. The worst ones, if I had a bullet to spare. I could see them. I could see they have returned now. To show their real face. The face they don't dare show their bourgeois voters back on Mundi with their families and polyester clothes. And rev counters in their cars. Polyester clothes. Is polyester particularly Occidental? I say Occidental, Western type of. Is it? I don't actually know what it is made out of. What polyester is made out of. I mean, or how you make it. It could be. It probably is. I mean, old school type of fabrics like linen and what's the other one? Silk? Yeah. And silk and cotton. Cotton is just bad in general, but it's really cheap. So yeah, it's just linen is a lot better, and silk obviously is a lot better. Depends on also what you want to do. So what specifically did you not like about what you saw the night of the murder? Them fucking. He looks at the charred wood. I didn't like that. I don't want to say okay then, but I also don't want to say the option that I am gonna say, which is, so you were jealous. I kind of want to ask, can you talk more about that? Because I don't think he was jealous. I think he's probably going to explain, but I think I would expect him to be more resentful of people being alive and doing their thing. He's resentful of that. Because he's been like that for a lot of things. Like them having polyester clothes and fiddling with their sexual organs. Jealousy is a reactionary concept. It is. Maybe not in the political way. Although, yeah, it also in the political way. But specifically, yes, it is a reaction. Reactionary is a complicated term because it tends, like historically speaking, I believe it generally refers to right-wing politics to be reactionary, but that's not what it means. That like it literally comes from just having a policy that is that exists as a reaction to other people's actions or to other people's policy. And right wing, at least mid 20th century, right wing politics being called reactionary has to do with the fact that a lot of the driving force behind the rise of right wing politics has to do. Well, I'll say that after the Second World War anyway, has to do with the fight against socialism. So it is reactionary, and I say against socialism, but that's also, I'm not doing it justice, against any non-right-wing politics, anything that is vaguely resemblant of left-wing, that's the reaction. It's a reaction against left-wing. So that's why it's reactionary. It's called reactionary. Although you can have reactionary politics from the left as well. Like, let me try to think. Well, authoritarian regimes. Well, yeah, you could probably call. Yeah, definitely you could call the USSR a reactionary state. from a practical perspective. You would be muddling terms, of course, so you need to add all the caveats. But still, yeah, it probably works like that, because it is very much it's obviously a reaction, but also it is, as far as I know, throughout its history, specifically throughout the beginning, like the first half of the century, it is very much, the politics are very much influenced by the worldwide political scene. So it is in that term very reactionary and conscious of the political implications of doing what it does. Of course, in the long term, it works differently, and it becomes a little bit more insulary or more isolated. But that's just how it goes sometimes with long term regimes, as they get more isolated. It works the same way with the U.S. It's tends to be the what would be the term for the institution of liberalism in the U.S. in specific has a very reactionary. But that I'm not. What I was gonna say is not true. I was gonna say that it has a very reactionary undertone at the beginning, in like the 18th century and 19th century, but that's not actually the case. It does from certain aspects, but not always. In a lot of ways, it's just the continuation of the politics of the British Empire. It's just by. It's kind of complicated, and I definitely don't know enough to talk about it. But the word is interesting, and I like talking about interesting things. So yeah. I didn't like the Reaver enjoying himself, drugged out, soothed in the arms of a young woman. I wanted him to die so he could not enjoy life anymore. And I wanted her to see his head explode. He nods. That too. She should know better than to hold a child murderer between her thighs. I knew he'd be there for one more second, writhing. That's all it takes for the bullet to reach his head, he squints. Now that I think of it, I wasn't aiming for his mouth. I wanted his brains to spill out on her. But, you can't have everything. This man has seen past her, like you did, says our volition. And now he longs to see her covered in blood, says our suggestion. To punish her, says our authority. You're all shit, Furies. Shut up. Especially you, Volition, because you're compromised or something. Then also you, Authority. Like, anyway. You wanted to punish her, so you killed him. Oh, this actually ties into... They're probably correct, by the way. These are so many checks, they're probably right. But still, shut up. So if they're right, and this also ties with his misogyny, it's not like... I can't tell that it is pervasive misogyny, but it's definitely internalized, which would be, yeah, you wouldn't feel it doesn't feel out of place, unfortunately. How long had you been watching her? Instead of asking this, I'm gonna say this. How long had you been watching her? Since she came to Martinez. I saw her sneaking in the reeds early in the morning behind the Feld building. It was dark, still winter. She didn't have her skimpy outfit on then, just a spot in the night, moving. Past the Feld building on the coast. What was she doing there? Hiding something in the water. She had a fag after she did it. She had a cigarette after she did it. I was up in the ruins there. She couldn't see me, but I could see her, smoking. She was nervous, but not scared. What do you think she did there? Or she hid there? Her passport and tickets to Villers? He coughs. And from there to Kascherbrunn. Okay, I might want to go back there, although she probably picked it up already. So, past the Feld building on the coast. Something in the water. What? Some kind of hidden container on the coast? You looked into it? Yes. After she'd gone, it was a submersible. Well made, actually. Sloppy, says Kim. We should have gotten her to tell us about this. The lieutenant mutters to himself. Did you take the documents? No, I put them back. Why would I take them? I'm not going to Faln. He seems confused momentarily. Or, I mean... What do you mean? Catcher Broom? Is he calling the new names? Is he confused about the names? Moving on, did you continue watching her after this? I did. He almost smiles. She had a face like an archipelago, with those birthmarks, and a body hard and lean and bruised all over, black and yellow. I could see she had taken a beating. I could see who she was, too. He nods. A spook, on the run. Revachol's the cloaca of capital now. All the bagmen and arms dealers end up here, to do drugs and have sex like animals. You could tell she was a spook from the documents? She had different color hair on the photo and glasses. Forged. Some sordid bourgeois affair. I've heard about this kind of thing on the radio. He's setting it up for you, says our drama. The bruises, says our visual calculus, you can't make that out in a scope. And you could see her bruises through the scope of her rifle? You can't see bruises through a scope, it's just a blur. He shakes his silver gray head. How did you get close enough to see the bruises, Mr. Dross? I have my ways. A cracked smile appears on his dried white lips. Another question about her. You wanted to punish her, so you killed him. She practically breastfed that man. You wouldn't believe the things she let him do to her. He shakes his head and stares at the ashes. How dare he suckle on her nipples? That is like the most depraved. Actually, I could probably see people thinking that is the most depraved sexual act. Because it's like, oh no, that is violating the sanctity of breastfeeding or something. I don't know. Probably there's people who think that. Our empathy says while he stands here and rots. Oh yeah, so that's our empathy, empathizing with him being jealous. But he says jealousy is a reactionary feeling. Men are insane. Oh boy, this one. Well, this one certainly is, but it's with good reason, to be honest. Isolation will drive you insane. Like, PTSD is definitely unavoidable in a situation like this. No matter how much you can cope with it, because he clearly is coping to some extent. I'm not like that. I don't think like that. What? Oh! Right, we're doing an option here. You saw her, or you saw through her, so did I. I think seeing through her here means, like, getting over her somehow. It feels super disgusting to say getting over her, because we were never romantically involved, so it's all if you had to get over her, it would be necessarily all in your head, so, like, it would be pretty delusional, in the least. But seeing, I think that's what it means there. She did deserve a good punishing. That's agreeing with him. I hate women too. You know, that's agreeing with me. Because it's kind of funny that I start. Because I recorded the last few episodes all in a row, and now I'm recording this episode first, all in a row for the next few episodes as well. And it's kind of funny that I mentioned misogyny for him right at the beginning, because it's the theme. It's his theme. Oh no, it's not his theme, but it's definitely one of his themes. I'm not like that. I don't think like that, says our character. Or I could say, I wonder. Our character certainly has... I don't know. I don't, like, throughout the game, I'm trying to think throughout the game if our character has ever showed any sort of... I don't know. There's it's kind of complicated because it's a lot about like the red flags to see if somebody has either like an what would be the word, like a hard on like hard on, not meaning as in a boner, but as in a hard, full out misogynist, full on misogynist. You know what I mean? You know, there's a difference. It's all it's all a spectrum, sort of, from the difference between being a full on misogynist and just having misogynist thoughts, or even if you don't have misogynist thoughts, you might still have ideas that lead to or that come from a society that is misogynist, or a society that is at least patriarchal in nature. And certainly this setting is patriarchal, and I don't think our characters, or our character, I don't think he is shown particularly a particularly great deal of understanding of at least the effects of patriarchy, and I don't think we've ever mentioned it even. So it would be relatively difficult for you to be able to spot things like, not that they came up. The thing is, they didn't really come up in the game. I think it is probably possible to get your character to just be a jerk to women specifically, but things like the way things I'm trying to think of things that are a little bit more subtle, like assumptions about like gender roles, that sort of stuff, more or less that sort of stuff, or just being like reducing women's roles when you're talking to them or something, and just being expecting them to have less of an importance or less of a role. I was trying to think specifically about the wife of the cryptozoologist. She herself a cryptozoologist, but I don't remember her name, and I was trying to remember her name. So so trying to, like, I don't remember if the dialogue there was like particularly centered on her husband. I think it was. But then again, the thing is, I think it's more or less a factor of either the tone of the game or the setting, because that's a symptom of patriarchy in general. It's just a focusing of women's lives around men, and that wouldn't be necessarily misogynist, although the upholding of that system is misogynist in nature, but the system itself, well, it's patriarchal, so it wouldn't. Can you call it that? It's kind of tricky because you can't call the system misogynist, at least from a literal sense of the word, but the upholding of the system would be misogyny, because it's like racism. No, it would be, yeah. The system is misogynist for sure. Yeah, if a system. Yeah, definitely the system. I was just saying that you can't call the system misogynist. Yes, a system that centers women's lives around men, that would be misogynist. The system itself, and the moment I said it's like racism, yes, it is like racism. It's basically like racism, a system that forces division, for example, among races, and a power stratus or stratification based on racial differences. It is a racial system or a racist system. And of course, the upholding of that system would be racist as well. So, yeah. So let's go with this one. But I can't figure out if our character is indeed saying the truth, that he's not like that, that he doesn't think like that. I would like him not to think like that. Let's see what happens. No one gives a shit what you think, says the deserter. He spits on the ash. You and your cronies kill 10 working-class men a day. I've heard the statistics on Channel 8. Here, it's tricky. I don't know what the undertone here is of I've heard the statistics on Channel 8. I would imagine this is not a lie. But the reason why it's not a lie, I think that what this means here, it isn't to say... this line over here needs to be understood in the context of the duality between the police and working class people, and why the police cannot be understood or seen as working class people. And understanding that is like, it's in that context that he's saying that the police kills 10 working class men a day. And that's the context. The police kills 10 people a day. It's what it means here. And I would imagine this probably has to do as well with like executions and the judicial system and stuff like that, because it's all within the same power structure in general. Even though the police officers themselves might not necessarily have the same role, I guess, is a good term to use. The same role as the rest of the judiciary system, but they would still be part of the system that enforces the law. Basically, is the distinction there, and every working class people being the ones that are subject to the law. And if there's a rule of law, then you would assume that everybody is subject to the law, but it still doesn't erase the role of the police force in enforcing that law. So that's why they can never be understood in the same. They're working in the sense, from just day to day. What we mean by working, they go to work. The police goes to work, obviously, but that's not. It's not the same kind of word. It's not. It's not a working class kind of work, because it is diametrically opposed in terms of the power struggle, specifically the power struggle. But if you're going to talk in those terms, it gets immediately political, and you don't need to think about politics to think about this particular duality here. You just, we're talking about power, so of course you need to talk about politics. But I mean it gets partisan is probably the better word. But you don't need to think about it like that. You just need to understand that. You just need to look at history for one thing, but also you need to understand the police as upholding the status quo in regards to the fight for better rights of the working class. So whenever the working class, whatever they are, whoever they are, even if it's just a small percentage of the population, it doesn't matter who they are, if they're the majority or a small percentage. The people who do work, if they're looking for better rights or for different, I say better, but at the end of the day, it's just for change. If they're trying to get change, the police force is always, by definition, because that's their job, they're going to side with the laws that are in place. They're going to side with certainly the people who make the laws, but more importantly, the laws that are in place. And the laws that are in place are the things that the working class is sort of like working against in a way when it's trying to get different rights. Like imagine, unfortunately I'm not educated enough. I could be educated enough. Let me look into that. I knew I had something for this. Yeah, just as an example, the first U.S. deaths of Unionists were in 1850 when the NYC cops clubbed people who were striking, tailors, they were tailors, to death. They killed them. And this is something that you see over and over again in history. And this happens not because the cops are just, ooh, no, the tailors must really work. No, that happens because the cops are doing their job. And their job is not necessarily, these days, it isn't necessarily to break strikes in all countries of the world, although it is in a lot of countries. But it's still in the same vein of upholding the law and maintaining the power of the people who give the power to the police officers, to the cronies here, and that's what he means. That's what he means over here. But anyway, we're out of time for the day, so for right now, I'm Colonel RPG, and this has been Disco Elysium. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and leave a comment, like the video if you want to see the next episode come out sooner rather than later. But above all, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next episode. Bye-bye.